71 points and 70 points. That is the entire distance between playing Champions League football in Italy this season and not playing it. 1 point. And the club on the right side of that line was Como, a club I've already made a whole video about, a couple of videos about. A club that had never qualified for the Champions League until May of this year, and they didn't lose their nerve. And the club on the wrong side of things, AC Milan. Milan went into the final day at home to Cagliari, 16th place Cagliari, needing a win to go into the top 4. Salamakis scored after 2 minutes. They lost 2-1. And here's the part that still gets me. On the 1st of March, Milan were second in Serie A, 57 points from 27 games. They then took 13 points from their last 11 matches, 2 wins in 8 across April and May, and finished 1 point behind Como. So what do you do after a collapse like that? Well, if you're AC Milan, you sack everybody. Manager, sporting director, technical director, chief executive, all in the same week. You hire Ruben Amorim, and you go and spend about 155 million euros so far. And as of right now, guys, day or so away from Serie A's kickoff, they have sold nobody, not one player. Hey, I'm Adrian, by the way. Thanks for joining me, because Gazzetta dello Sport pointed something out at the start of this month that I could not get my head around. For the first time in over 20 years, Milan reached the 6th of August without making a single sale. At the same point last summer, they'd sold 15 players for 157 million euros. So let's get into how Milan have spent this money. Who is actually spending it? Because that's been an interesting point. The Rafael Leão situation, which might be the most confusing transfer saga I've seen in some time, as well as some major reasons for optimism, actually, as I see AC Milan as a major wild card this season. Subscribe if you haven't already. Lots of football stories and coverage from me every week. And look, as with anything, it's a perfect storm, right? It's not one thing. It's the money. It's the man making the phone calls. It's a striker problem that's been running for about a decade or so. And it's Leão. And all 4 feed into each other, which is what makes this interesting rather than just a bad scenario, right? Let's start with the money, because AC Milan have certainly spent it. Gonçalo Ramos came in from PSG for around 74 million euros, rising past 80 with add-ons on a 5-year deal. That is a club record. Milan have never paid more for a footballer, ever. Mario Gila from Lazio, 27.5 million. Diego Moreira from Strasbourg, 50 million guaranteed plus add-ons. And a young midfielder, Sankun Diawara, for 3 million. That's roughly 155 million euros going out. And as of the time of recording, nothing coming in. Sky put the summer budget at 250 million euros, though with a caveat about whether that assumes sales. And it must, right? Because there haven't been any just yet. Now, before anyone says this is a club being cheap, it isn't. Corriere dello Sport ran the numbers in April. Flies, man. Corriere dello Sport ran the numbers in April. Since the Scudetto in 2022, Redbird have put over 500 million euros into the squad. 62 million, then 132, then 139, then 170 last season. And they've recouped 315 million selling Tonali, Teo Hernandez, Chao, and Reinders. Enormous business in both directions. And in 4 years of it, they have won 1 trophy, a Supercoppa Italiana, in January of 2025. So that's the context Ruben Amorim has walked into, 500 million euros and a Supercoppa. And I want to be fair here, because this is not a stingy owner in the classic sense. Argue with the signings he's made and whether they were money well spent, sure, but it was money well spent. Cardinale has reportedly been personally involved this window in a way he hasn't been before. Direct contact with Amorim, backing the 3 players the coach actually asked for. That's what you want from an owner, right? The problem isn't that Milan won't spend, it's the order they do it in. You cannot buy 4 players, sell 0, carry 33 professionals when you need 25, and then be surprised in September that the squad feels wrong. Sempre Milan, all of my sources are linked below, by the way, called it bloated yet incomplete, and I have not read a better 3-word summary of AC Milan in quite a few years. Which brings me to the bit I find the hardest to explain right now. In May, Milan sacked Massimiliano Allegri. They also sacked sporting director Ili Tare, technical director Jeffrey Moncada, and chief executive Giorgio Furlani. The club's own statement called the season an unequivocal failure. So they fired the entire football department for bad recruitment. Who replaced them? Well, nobody, exactly. In June, Milan decided not to appoint a traditional sporting director at all. Massimo Calvelli came in as a chief executive. Hendrik Almstadt got the title head of player trading. Bobby Gardner became director of football intelligence, and Cardinale went more hands-on. And then Tuttosport published a line that tells you more about this club, if you're to believe it, than any of these job titles do. They wrote that Jorge Mendes is effectively Milan's new sporting director. That's Tuttosport's words. Again, remember that. Now, let me be very clear here, because this matters. Nobody is alleging anything improper, maybe just annoying if you're a Milanista. Mendes is an agent doing his job, and Milan are a club trying to do theirs in signing players. But look at that list. Gonçalo Ramos, Mendes client. Diego Moreira, also led by Mendes. Milan Reports wrote this week that, quote, as was the case with Gonçalo Ramos, Jorge Mendes, who is also Moreira's agent, has played a key role in the operation. Antonio Silva at Benfica was linked with AC Milan. Trincão, Pedro Gonçalves, and Morten Hjulmand at Sporting were linked. Marc Casado offered to Milan by Mendes but didn't end up there. And Rafael Leão's exit talks also reportedly led by Mendes. Quotidiano Sportivo put it like this, quote, the Axis has been used previously, but it could now be used to build the new Diavolo, end quote. And here's the fairness bit, because there is one and it's strong. Amorim is Portuguese. He wants players he already understands. Mendes represents most of the best Portuguese footballers alive. An overlap that large is boring and predictable and not really sinister, right? Somebody had to fill the vacuum, and it's not exactly surprising that Ruben Amorim, starting a new big job, will want guys around him that would likely want to see him succeed. But Milan created said vacuum themselves. You sacked 4 executives for getting recruitment wrong, and the thing you replaced them with was an agent's contact book, their Rolodex, essentially. Now, strikers, guys. The strikers. Since 2017, Milan have spent 169 million euros on center forwards. Carlos Bacca, 30 million. Christoph Piatek, 35, 9 goals. Andre Silva, 38. De Catelara, Jimenez. Milan News did a great cut last November. Okafor, Morata, Jimenez, and Nkunku, over 100 million euros of forwards, produced 21 goals between them. 21! It's now 13 years since a Milan striker matched what Ibrahimovic did in 2011-12 when he scored 28. But the bit that really gets me is last summer, because last summer Milan didn't just fail to sign a striker, they failed to sign 5 of them. A month of negotiating for Rasmus Højlund collapsed over the loan to buy terms. He went to Napoli and scored 16 in 44. A loan with an option agreed for Victor Boniface, and he failed the medical. Not their fault. They offered 35 to 40 million for Matteo Retegui. Atalanta wanted 66 to 70, and he went to Saudi Arabia and scored 19 and 31. A medical booked for Konrad Harder. Deal collapsed, and Dusan Vlahovic killed off by a 12 million net salary demand. Not really their fault either. So who did they end up with? Christopher Nkunku, not really a striker, around 37 million plus add-ons, 6 goals and 3 assists in 27 appearances. He's now on Amorim's list of players to move on, alongside Fikayo Tomori and Fofana. And I want to give real credit here. Ramos is the correct decision, in my opinion, and I know, hey, Benfica guy, he's biased, but I think there's a lot of promise there. 45 goals in 131 games at PSG, where he wasn't a starter, 3 Liga 1 titles, 2 Champions Leagues, and he's a mobile pressing center forward, which is exactly what Amorim's system demands. That's Milan finally doing something everybody had been screaming at them to do. It just took 9 years and 169 million euros of misses to get there. So I think that Gonçalo Ramos could be the right guy, but maybe people will have issues with the price, wrong price. And then there's Rafa. On the 30th of May, speaking to Sport TV, Rafael Leão said, quote, I think I've given Milan everything I could give. It's been a club that helped me grow a lot, that supported me in the tough moments, and I'm happy to have managed to write my name in the club's history. Everyone has their dreams, their challenges, the things they desire, the goals they want to reach, and I too want to try a new challenge in a new league. Well, 7 years, done. He said it himself publicly before the World Cup. And then what happened to his price? His 2023 contract had a release clause of 175 million euros. By November of last year, 2025, Milan were asking 120. By May, they were asking 50. As of the middle of this month, Gazzetta have it at 40 to 45 million. 175 down to 40. Same player, same contract, which runs to 2028, 26 years old. And then the alleged U-turn, because Corriere della Sera now report that Leão has changed his mind. He wants to stay. Milan would rather sell at this point. So why won't anybody buy him? Sport Italia reported in May that Arsenal, Manchester United, and Barcelona were all offered him, and all three said no. Sempre Milan laid out 4 reasons at the start of August. The wages, he's on around 7 million a year and reportedly wants 10. Then, and I'm quoting, limited positional flexibility or defensive pressing attributes. Consistency, no Serie A goal between the 1st of March and the end of the season. And finally, he announced it himself, which handed away every scrap of leverage Milan had. You cannot negotiate hard for a player who's told the entire planet he wants to leave his club, which leaves Galatasaray, who have pushed hardest, and Fenerbahce, who reportedly offered around 10 million a season back in July. Leão wants England or Spain. England and Spain haven't called yet. And then tactically, this is the real part. Amorim plays a back 3, 2 wing backs, 2 inside forwards, and a striker, a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1, depending on who's drawing it. Those 2 inside forwards live in the half spaces and combine centrally. At Sporting, that was Trincão and Pedro Gonçalves. As I saw live before my eyes at this past World Cup against Croatia, Leão will stay wide, hoping to receive the ball in transition or have an opportunity and some space to drive at a defender. He provides next to nothing out of possession, unfortunately, and that is a big problem in Amorim's setup in particular. The other way into the team is left wing back. Milan are converting Alexis Salamakers into that role instead. So here's Amorim after the Manchester United friendly, of which AC Milan won. Quote, I don't know, but Leão is one of our players. I've already said that we're happy to have him. He's a valuable player, so we'll see. But he has to fight. He has to fight for a place he virtually owned for about 7 years in Milan. And I do want to be fair to him because I think this has gotten a bit cruel in some ways. He's 26. He was Milan's MVP in a Scudetto winning season. And last year, Allegri played him at times as sort of a center forward type thing in a 3-5-2, which is not what he is and never has been. A player being wrong for one system is not the same, as being a finished player, right? Okay. Let me give you the other side of this because I don't actually think it's all doom and gloom at AC Milan at all. Amorim's 14 months at Manchester United were mostly bad, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. 63 games, 24 wins, 1.23 points per game, the worst of United's entire Premier League era, sacked on the 6th of January of this year. United said the issue was his refusal to adapt his system, but that is not his career, right? At Sporting, Amorim took charge of 231 matches and won 165 of them, 2.29 points per game, 2 Portuguese titles, and the first of them ending a 19-year wait. The second, one with 90 points, 10 clear of Benfica, 2 Manager of the Season awards, and a reputation as a serial rebuilder and a developer of young players. That's the majority of his career. You know, we can't just look at Manchester United. The argument for Amorim has always been that his system needs a squad built for it. Some would say that United never gave him one. Milan, whatever else you say about them, are actively trying to give him a squad. And there are green shoots here. Milan went to Wrocław on the 15th of August and beat Manchester United 4-2. Chukwueze, Cisse, Ramos, and Loftus-Cheek with the goals. Now it's a friendly against a club in transition under a new permanent manager. So let's not lose our minds about that result, but the shape is starting to look like a shape. Alfredo Cisse is the story I kind of like here. Milan paid 10 million for him in January out of Hellas Verona's academy, loaned him straight back to Catanzaro in Serie B, and he's played well enough in preseason that Amorim has paused plans for his loan move for this upcoming season. Torino wanted him, Sassuolo wanted him. For now, he's staying. We'll see by the end of the transfer window. But there's also Modric in there, Pulisic, Ricci, Jashari, Rabiot. Missing the Champions League actually helps a little. A lighter calendar for a squad learning a completely new shape and system from scratch. So, the perfect storm. €500 million for one trophy, a football department replaced by an agent's WhatsApp contact list, 9 years of strikers' misses, perhaps finally corrected at the exact moment they can't really afford it, and a €7 million a year winger nobody will take off their hands at time of recording at least. And all of it comes back to one point. Como are in the Champions League, Milan are in the Europa League. Milan's answer to that was to spend €155 million. We'll see what happens. 2 things to watch. Torino away first, then Juventus away, and Lazio away inside the opening 4 matches. 3 of the first 4 on the road. Then there's deadline day. And with this football club, it's basically a personality test. Opta's supercomputer gives Milan a 30.7% chance of finishing in the top 4. It also rates Como higher than Milan for the actual title. Milan is ranked 7th with just a 5.4 chance from Opta. And my honest read on it, as an outsider, AC Milan brought in a manager who has shown that he can be successful in the right conditions. But at the same time, the structure around him is a bit of a mystery at this point, with so many names out and not many in as far as executive roles. So, Milan is a massive wild card this season. What do you reckon on Leão? Stays or goes? And would you buy him at 40 million? Let me know down below. Guys, that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. Go and check if you're subscribed, and I'll see you soon. Bye.